Every year, hundreds of thousands of people are reported missing across the globe. Here are 5 mysterious cases of people's last known movements captured on camera before they walked out of view, never to be seen again. Stephen Kocher was a devoted member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. While some close to him described him as a bit naive and inexperienced in life as a 30-year-old man, he had a close group of friends within his church and, by all accounts, seemed to have a happy life. In early December of 2009, Stephen secretly drove over 1,100 miles between Utah, Nevada, and possibly even California, all within a day. On Sunday, December 13th, a camera captured Stephen driving into a Henderson, Nevada neighborhood at 11:54 a.m. He parked his car in the center of a small cul-de-sac at the end of the street. 6 minutes later, at exactly 12 noon, he walked back into view of the camera on Savannah Springs Road. As he walked past the camera, a small bag or portfolio can be seen tucked underneath one arm, held against his torso. He continued to walk to the corner of the street and was picked up on a second camera on the side of Evening Light Street. As he crossed to the opposite side of the street, his reflection was picked up in the window of a parked van. He was seen reaching the second house from the corner before he walked out of view of the camera. There has been no sign of him since. On June 30th, 2014, Lars Matank and some friends traveled from Germany to Varna, Bulgaria. They vacationed at a seaside resort where they partied and lounged at the beach and resort pool. The last night of their vacation, the friends went to a local bar. Sometime that night, Lars got into an argument with some other men in the bar over German football teams. He and his friends left shortly after, but instead of leaving with the group, Lars went in the opposite direction. The next morning, he met up with his friends at the resort and explained he had been jumped by some of the guys from the bar the night before. He had visible injuries to his jaw, and after seeing a doctor, he was urged to skip his flight due to a ruptured eardrum he sustained in the fight. He told his friends he'd be fine and they should return to Germany that day as planned, and he'd see them back home whenever he was cleared to fly again. The next day, on July 8th, Lars walked into the Varna airport and checked in with the airport doctor. Without warning, Lars yelled out he didn't want to die there as he jumped out of his seat, sprinting out of the airport. He was last seen hopping a fence where he continued to run into a nearby forest. There has been no confirmed sign of him since. "22-year-old Trevor Deely left his work Christmas party in Dublin, Ireland, around 3:30 a.m. on December 8, 2000. He walked the 10 minutes to his office and spoke with an unknown man dressed in black who had been waiting outside of the office gates for over 30 minutes before Trevor arrived. He walked into the courtyard and closed the gate behind him. Inside the office, he sorted through paperwork he would need for his next work shift. After Trevor is seen walking through the office gates, 2 additional unknown men approached the gate and seemed to talk to the man dressed in black. At 4:03 a.m., Trevor walked out of his office with an umbrella. The men who were waiting while Trevor was in his office aren't seen anywhere on camera by the time he emerges. Trevor walked past another camera located on Bagot Street and Haddington Road at 4:14 a.m. He walked down the street and out of view of the camera. Moments later, a second man dressed in black walked past the same camera. While he would later be identified and cleared of any suspicion, the first man standing outside of Trevor's office would remain a mystery. Trevor never made it home to his flat. His whereabouts remain unknown. Tragedy struck the U.S. when terrorists attacked the Pentagon and World Trade Center on September 11, 2001. After the rubble settled, over 3,000 people lost their lives or went missing during the horrific aftermath. Snea Ann Phillip, a doctor who lived and worked just a few blocks away from the World Trade Center, would later be one of the reported victims of 9/11. But many people still question how accurate that might be. A day before the attacks, Snea had the day off work. Her husband, Ron, who was also a doctor, left for an early morning meeting at the hospital. He returned home just before midnight on September 10th. Snea wasn't in the apartment, leading Ron to believe she had gone to stay at her brother or cousin's house like she had done in the past when Ron worked late shifts. The next morning, Ron got back to the hospital to find the attacks unfolding on TV. With no word from Snea, he rushed home to check on her. The building was locked up, but one of his neighbors told him Snea hadn't been there that morning. Surveillance footage would later be discovered that showed Snea shopping at a nearby department store. She walked out of the store, bags in hand, around 5:00 p.m. on September 10th. Her shopping bags never made it back to the apartment. Her brother and cousin told Ron they hadn't talked to Snea for over 2 days before her disappearance. While her disappearance has been officially ruled as a death due to the 9/11 attacks, that still doesn't explain where she was the night of September 10th, or if she was even still alive or in the area by the time the planes hit the next morning. Her family finds comfort in the idea that Snea lost her life running into the rubble in order to save those who were injured or trying to escape the explosions. Relisha Rudd was an 8-year-old girl living with her mom, Shamika Young, in a homeless shelter in the Washington, D.C. area. In February of 2014, Relisha suddenly stopped showing up to school. Shamika would eventually provide the school with a note stating that her daughter was having health complications but was under the care of Dr. Tatum. A concerned school counselor called Dr. Tatum to check up on Relisha and scheduled a meeting with him to speak in person. But when he didn't show up to the meeting, the school contacted authorities to report her missing. By the time officials were alerted in March, Relisha had already missed over a month of school. Upon investigating, police discovered Dr. Tatum wasn't a doctor at all. 51-year-old Khalil Tatum was a janitor who worked at the homeless shelter after spending time in prison from 1993 to 2003 and again from 2004 to 2011. While living at the shelter, Shamika got closer to Khalil and eventually allowed her daughter to go on overnight trips with him. On February 26, 2014, cameras captured Khalil and Relisha walking down a Holiday Inn Express hallway in northeast Washington, D.C. The two walked down the hallway before Khalil stopped in front of a room and pulled out his keycard. The door opened and the two walked inside. Relisha would never be seen again. On March 20th, Khalil Tatum's wife was found shot in the head in a Maryland motel room, the same day Relisha was reported missing. Police issued a warrant for his arrest, but before they were able to catch up with him, he was found deceased in a shed in Kenilworth Park by an apparent gunshot wound to the head. Authorities would confirm he committed suicide using the same gun that killed his wife.